All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. All right, made it in here. We are so grateful to the Most High. Give him all the praise, the honor, and the glory, because truly he is worthy to be praised above all. We have thanks for your patience, those of you that are in the room and have joined us for the live session. I almost was a cancellation, but we was trying to get some things done and all of those good things. And so our prayers goes out. We had some things that we was trying to help one another with, and that's what the beauty of the assembly is all about. We're trying to help one another, build one another up, and that's what's good. So sometimes, whatever we may have something scheduled, but then here comes life, and life interrupts some things, doesn't it? Oh, wow, wow. Well, praise Yah. But we had a chance to make it, and I am so excited about that. Probably, I was trying to get some things together, and so hopefully that we can do maybe something here just for a moment to encourage us and to build us up. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, just briefly, many times I have mentioned this over the years and inserted it in different conversations and different way of looking at things, right? So I wanted to, and that this was definitely in my heart. So if it's possible, there may be a part two, not because of the length, but because of the focus. So if somehow, maybe, I don't know if I feel like it's always could be more said. No, don't get me wrong, but maybe if there something, if it doesn't say feel closure, then we may have a part two, part three, part four. We could go all the way down the line, huh? What do you, right? And so we're gonna challenge ourselves with the questions to hear and see, right? And I think that many times it doesn't matter what everybody else sees. It doesn't matter what everybody else hears in this context, right? Of what we saying when we asking ourselves, what is it that I hear and see? Because what I hear and then what I see is going to be important. It's going to be important in my walk in the things of the Father. So what is it that I see, and then what is it that I hear? Now, many a times we find that Yeshua, one of the things that he have used, and then if you read that, definitely in the translations of things, it would say that. It would say something to the effect that, let me put this on here. You that have an ear, let him hear, right? If you have an ears, or if you have ears, and then it is what it is let them hear. So if you have that, then it's very, very important. Now that's verse, we're not, I didn't go down to the verse there, but it's verse 15. Right now I can just skip down there and because we're going to get there, but that is an echo, right? He who has ears to hear, right? He that has ears to hear, let him hear. The one who has ears has, other word, has better listen. It's kind of rich there, and it's in the Greek, and we know it's even more powerful when you're talking about hear, O Israel, right? Shema, hear. It means a lot. And so throughout, now when we read our scriptures, we'll find out even in the apostolic writings, we'll find out that it was always an idiom that is there. He that has an ear, but it was an idiom from the beginning, right? It's always if you hear and then if you see. And that's what I wanted us to focus on is what do you hear and see? And so I guess the last week or so, I had been looking at different texts and things and emails that has been maybe given to me or when I was trying to read it, right? And we would use the word just skim over it. but I realize how much that I interject myself into that text to the point that the words was not even there that was in the text. And so I looked at it, I read it, but I filled in the text. I filled it in, and then because I once I thought the text was for a certain topic or a certain situation, then I began to start filling it in my own self. I be, and so it was not when I read it, right? Because anytime we read anything, even though you don't say nothing with your mouth, right, you can always hear it, right? If you don't say nothing with your mouth, you can always hear it. You can still hear it. Why? Because it is in your mind. Have you ever been thinking about something? What you do, you hear it. You always hear it. You can close your eyes and begin to rest and begin to meditate on the word of Yah. You hear those words. You hear. You understand? You hear that. So if I say, if you have ears, then let them hear. Right? You can think about that and begin to hear it. You begin to hear it, and I know you know what I'm talking about, and there's some good things sometimes. Sometimes we hear those things. You can be in a situation, a conversation, and in your mind you can hear it. Don't say that, and yet you go forth, right? So the same thing that is obviously there are things that can be seen that are not seen, things that can be heard but not really heard, in that. And I find out as I mature more that communication, oh man, ooh, that's a whole nother level within itself. But I also know that I cannot, and it's difficult because over the years, sometimes I interject different things, right? And I'm taking back this text. The text really didn't say that. And then it was what really was my wife sending something to me, right? And then she said, did you really read that? And so we go and we begin to tease one another, and then I say, yes, I read it. But I didn't read it. I skimmed over it. I read the text, but I inject it, and then I go to the next line, in that. And then because I thought I knew what it was going to say next. And sometimes it's not what I'm reading, it's not what I'm singing. So I seen the text, and that text, when I interject what I thought, right, I heard that. That's what I heard. If you understand what I'm saying here, that's what I heard. And so sometimes you can be reading or read right over. I know I do it all the time. Read right over a word, and then I see it. I have to go back because I'm not really reading it. I'm interjecting it, right? I'm interject. So even with me, I do that a lot, and I don't know what that is. I know because in my studying, sometimes I study the words and I know the definitions of them, and sometimes that definition is not the one I really want to use, and you may use something else, right? But in your reading, I'm just trying to give some examples here. And then it's not that you didn't know what the word was or know what it said. You interject what you thought it was there, what you thought's there, right? And have been many examples of this. They have, did research on that, and you can really look at it and your brain operates differently, right? Your brain operates a little differently, and then you interject a word, and the word is really not there at all, right? And that's what we do. And so in doing that, did I really see it? So when I'm reading it, even if I'm using my voice or not silence in my reading, I still hear a voice. I still hear a voice. So I am interjecting. Okay, I see it, but what I'm hearing, I hear when I interject certain words or thoughts, it can be the whole thought process, not just a word, but the whole thought, the whole thing. It says, for instance, I'm trying to think of something here. It says that I am going to the store. you know. And then we talked about earlier that you was going swimming. So when you see me, and then I said in that I said, okay, when you get ready to go swimming, send me a text, right? So, but the text that I get, you said it was going to the store, but I didn't filled in because in my mind this text is on the fact that we said that you when you go swimming, send me a text. That's not what the text said, but that's what I read when you said I am going to the store, right? I'm going to the store. So I filled all of that in. The spelling and everything else is not in there, but I interject or the assumptions of it was already there, right? In that, you know. And so I say, if I go into the store and see you in the store and I say, well, what are you doing in here? You just sent me a text, said you was at the, you went swimming, right? And so then there's a misconnect. And I say, no, that's what I read. You sent me the text, you know. Okay, in that I seen and I interjected, you know. So sometimes it's very difficult. It takes a rereading of something sometimes, a slowing down of something, and then to get the information that you need in that. So when you hear or when you see, right? And I think that will really be good because I know and it's not this thing is not done to deceive anybody or to trickery anybody. It's just that's just the way that we are operating. So when we are not aware of those things, that's what we do, right? That's what we do. And if I took that same example, I could, turn it around. Somebody asked me, well, where is so and so? And I said, oh, they went swimming. They're at the pool. They swimming, right? Uh, uh, and they didn't even go. They didn't even go. But that's what I read in the text. So I look at the text later and see that you was going to the store. You didn't go swimming. You didn't go nothing. You didn't go nowhere, right? And so this is what I seen, and then this is what I heard, And so dealing on this examples of what I'm trying to give is something in the communication part. And then this goes with husbands and wives. This goes with one another, with people, co-workers, wherever you may be, right? All of these things are in there. And so this is what we have to know because it's very, very important. Everything is sort of based on those things. It's based on your life is based on what you hear. Listen, your life is based on what you are seeing. It's very, very important in that, all around you, you make decisions, you could be driving, you know, and you have to see properly, of course. You've been driving, but the signal light tells you it is red. That means I need to stop, not, to press down. It's time to hit the brakes. Is that right? It's time to hit the brakes. But I have to see the red first. I have to see the red. And then when I look at that, and so many times the yellow caution, I should be stopping, but sometimes you speed up on the yellow, but you see yellow, but it has already switched red, but sometimes we still see yellow. And so many times people will say it was not red, it was yellow, but it wasn't red, right? But they seen yellow, but it was red, right? Because that's what they seen. But they interject the properly, and I know that there's probably some real super terms for this, but of course, power up is just simple, and we're trying to get powered up. We're trying to get an understanding, right? In the simplest form of the word, and then we can build from there. We can build. And so in our mind is what we see and then what we hear, we really, really put everything together, right? And so what we see and what we hear sometimes will have us to create, right, our own narrative, create our own story about something, and then what we see. It is very, very important what you see and what you hear, because those things are the proof text of things, you know. So sometimes even now I have, we have the translations of a particular translation. This is the scriptures here. They have different ones. The Net Bible, the JB, they have, King James, So these here are the translations of things. But what you see and then what you hear without the interjection, because it's very important to have a eyewitness. You have to have an eyewitness, you know. And so even you have an eyewitness, but according to where you are standing, if it say, we'll say it's what do you want to say? It's an accident, a fender bender, nothing serious. But according to where you are standing, you see in this whole accident differently, in that. You could even look at a video after the accident, and several people can look at that video and see different things, right? One time I was in a courtroom and was part of a jury, and we looked at the films, but people seen that film differently. Even the video, I'm saying, we seen it differently. What you see, right, and what you hear, because some of it had sound to it. Some of the video had sound, and I think some of it didn't, if I can recall it. But what you see and then what you hear, right? So you could be standing. If I go back to the fender bender, you'd be standing there, and your eyewitness will be different, right? It'll be different. Same situation, same fender bender or whatever, you know. And then they even have things where they test you. People would go in and say they would do safety for what to do if somebody was to come in and rob you, right? Now they did different tests, right? They always do those things. One of the tests, if I remember, is they went in and they had a man, say, I'm just going to say, with a red shirt on, and he had a blue hat, right? And they come in and they robbed him, and then he come in and come out real fast. Now, when they begin to take what you see, the eyewitnesses, the people that was there, the colors of what he had on was different. Some got it right, but some was just as close as the others and didn't, because everything that's going on, your focus of what you focusing on, right? And so what you focus on is what you tune into. What you focus on is what you tuning into, and then you kind of interject the rest, And so that's the process of thinking, though. That's the process of the developing, the discovery, and intervention, inventing stuff, right? You have that process. That process is there in that, and it really, really means something. So, what do you hear and see? And so, in our case, when it comes down to the things of the Father, and when it comes down to our walk, it is critical what we hear and then what we see, because it becomes a part of us. It becomes a part of us, no matter what, right? It comes a part of us, and it becomes a witness unto us. What we see and what we hear. And that was one of the things that Yeshua said there in verse 4. And Yeshua answered and said to them, right? Because he was coming upon a question here that Yohanan wanted to know, right? He told him that he asked him, said, "Are you the coming one?" Let's go to verse 3, right? Yochanan, let's see, verse 3, yes. And said to him, "Are you the coming one, or do we look for another?" In other words, are you the Messiah, or should we look for another? Now, this is the relationship, and if you know, and I think most of us know, that look towards that, of what things was going on and the relationship that they had. So what he did was, he, of course, He was in prison, right? And so what he did was he sent two of his taught ones. Now, this here is important because even though Yeshua was there, the Messiah, so everybody just didn't go, right? They still had a teacher. So they just didn't go. So we know that Yeshua had his Talmudines as well, right? His taught ones. And so they was taught, right, by who? By Yochanan, right? So they was taught by him, right? And it's very, very important. And that's John. John, they was taught by him. And when you see that, you'll realize that it's very, very important. Everybody, in this sense, didn't drop all of their students, right? Those that recognize. And we know and understand said, I want to be for sure because when you get in a situation, right? He was in what? He was in prison, wasn't he? He was in prison. I said he was in prison. And so sometimes when we in this life, we have different things that come up and we begin to wonder. That's what we be doing. We begin to wonder about those things, not doubting, but wondering because even in our mind, I'm sure that he had an idea of what was going on, right? He had an idea of what was going on. And he was in expectation that certain things would happen. But as we know, Yeshua came and all the expectations of even the taught ones, those around them, we know that it worked out and was differently. It was totally different than what we would think, right? And so he said, are you the coming one? We was in expectation, right? Hebrews was in expectation, right, of the Mashiach coming. Now, are you the one or are you another? Now, most times when we look at this, you think about it in your own. Just think about it for a second. You know, what would you think the response would be? I know that when this was came to me and I began to read it, and it just was so powerful because, again, it go back to what we are talking about. What is it that you're seeing, right? And Yeshua answered and said to them, go. He said, this is what he said, go and report, right? What are you going to report? What you see and what you hear, and what you hear and what you see. That's what it is. Blind receive sight, right? The lame walk. Now, this is what they seen this. So it wasn't something that someone told them. They seen these things, right? That's what I want you to tell them. Right? This is what I want you to tell them. The leopards are cleansed, and then the deaf hear. You understand? And many times I think people, even would address me sometimes and say, well, anyone. But okay, for those of you talking about anyone could have done this, when this last time this happened? Who do you know without the trickery that this has happened? When has a real blind man, okay, that you know today, that you seen with your eyes, begin to see, right? Not talking about just, cataracts, or I'm talking about blind. People know they were blind. Doctors know they were blind. I'm talking real blindness, the lame, right? Real, something real. The leopards, they cleanse. And then he said the deaf hear, right? Now, I wanted just to put this in here. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm just kind of relating this, and this is not even maybe the purpose because I was not there of what Yeshua was saying. But it's just amazing as I was reading it. It said the blind receive what they do, sight. What does it say that we must do? We must see. He must see, always done in order. Always done in order. And he didn't leave it out, right? Most of this is part of your body. But before he even ended that, he said what? The deaf. What they do. What they do? They hear. Right? So he's telling them what listen, go and tell them what you see. But that is a healing part for us, is when we are blind, that we will regain our sight. And then when we are deaf, then we'll begin to hear. In the natural, right? And as well as in the spiritual realm or in the spirit, right? That's important, right? That's important because these are the things that we must do and we must see, right? All things being equal, right? All things being equal. And then the deaf was raised. So when you do, last time somebody went out to the cemetery in your town and begin to raise the dead. I'm not talking about, you just get you down there and we misdiagnosed you. I'm talking about raise up, right? And then of course the good news come forth, right? Okay. And then you are blessed when you do not stumble at me. He said, and blessed is he, right? Blessed is he. So we understand that we must regain our sight as well as we must hear. And this is what we're talking about. He that has an ear, let him hear. Now there's a certain, let me see if I was doing this earlier. This is in Revelations chapter 2, by the way. There it is. There it is. Okay. He and this, if we was saying maybe in order or whatever, but he who, and we still talking about the ear, right? We still talking about the ear, them hearing. He who has an ear, what it says, let him hear. It is important to let him hear, but right here it says what the Spirit is saying, the Ruach. And it says it to the assembly, right? So it is important. Now, if you go through this and you read this, you'll find out what was going on when, right, these was penned to the assemblies, right? To the leadership. That's who it was penned to, right? So it is important that we have an ear to hear and then what the Spirit is saying to us. How do you know what the Spirit is saying to us? We know by Torah, right? Torah tells us, that is the Ruach of Yah, as the Ruach of the Mashiach, right? Of Yeshua, right? He that have an ear, let him hear, right? And so we have to be able to develop hearing patterns, And then many times our scriptures say what they were dull of hearing, people being dull of hearing, right? But we have to come to a point that we have to know that we have to hear and let him hear, right? In that. Even down, I think I was looking earlier in 17. He who has an ear, let him hear. There you go again. What the Spirit says to the assemblies. To him who overcomes, right? Right? I shall give some of the hidden manna to eat. We still talking about manna, even in Revelation. Isn't that amazing? That is amazing, isn't it? Huh? So he that let him, and then he goes on, but he also to the messengers, right? So he also was speaking to the leadership as well in that. So we must come to a point that we have to be able to have a ear to hear what the Ruach is saying to us. It's very important. Now, most times we hear things, but what is it? We hear something, right? And we feel like it's the Spirit, but what is it that you singing? Because that is our second witness, right? So if you see something, your second witness will be hearing. If you hear something, the second witness will be singing, right? And so you would see the blind, right? In this context here. So you would see the deaf, you know. So he didn't sit there and told him, well, the blind was receiving, the lame was walking, and then you go back, He said, tell him what you see. Go back and tell him what you see. And it's very important that we do that we need to make sure that we start living about what we're seeing. What you see, somebody was saying long ago, I guess we still say it, what you see is what you get. I mean, some of you may know about that, right? What you see is what you get. Don't deny what you see, right? Don't deny what you see. They most times they need to go together, right? The hearing and the seeing, because you can hear a lot, but most of the time you don't even see it. Many times we are going on what we are just hearing, you know. And so a safe place is what I'm saying. It may not work with everything like this. You can't see everything, right? Or hear everything, vice versa. But a safe place when it comes to dealing with the things of the Father and dealing with one another is we need to be in a place where we hear and then what we see. What we hear and then what we see. Because you hear a lot of things, but did you see it? I said, do you hear a lot of things? No, I didn't see it, but so-and-so saw it. No, 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 no. We need a second witness for your eyes to see, right? For your eyes to see. So we need to hear it and then see it, or see it and then hear it. It's a safe place for us. It could be a trustworthy voice that speaking and then you hear it, but you need to see it. You need to see it. And then if you hear it from the person, say if, I say, I seen so-and-so, they 5'5". They that tall now? Yes, they 5'5", Okay, you heard it, you know. And then when you really dig into it, you need to see it. So when you see them, you're in expectation of 5'5", not 4'5", right? That's what you in the expectation of, And so then you see it. So other words, the person says 5'5", you don't doubt them. Then when you see them, they say, "Oh yes, I'm 5'5" now." Okay, now you have heard it, one witness, and now you see it, right? You see it. Good. I'm good. It's good. Not that I never doubted you, because you're a trustworthy person. But now I see it. And sometimes that makes you comfortable in that, right? It makes you comfortable when you hear it and then see it, or see it and then hear it, right? And then get those confirmations from the people. It's what it's saying, what they see. What did they say? Somebody say, "Well, I was blind, but now I see." Okay, that's that. All right, I see that too. You can see? Yeah. Yes, you can. All right. So in our dealings with one another, sometimes that's what we need to see, or maybe to look at. It's always he that has an ear, right? And then even in see if I went to what time? Okay, to Mark. I don't want to. I think it was 4. Yes. Oh, 4:23. I think is what I want. Yeah, it's talking about the sower, rocky places. Excuse me. Rocky places. I know I was skimming through this. The root. I think that's what I want. I say that 23. I think the sower, the seed. Okay, yeah. What I wanted to say was here is after you read this, right? After you read that, you will hear about the sower and what all of that's about. And then it says, if anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. So everyone does not hear, right? It's just those that have an ear. Now that idiom there is those that want to receive. You have to have a desire to receive. You have to have a desire of what you're doing, right? So once you hear that, because of course they was listening, right? Everybody didn't have a what we call scriptures carrying around with them, or they didn't have the phone or could pull it up like we're doing now, looking at it. It wasn't that. You had to focus in on it, the listening. And then our forefathers, they was good at listening, because that's how you get it. That's how you get it. Those ears, if they are dull, it's hard to get it in there. And he said to them, take heed of what you hear. In other words, we need to be concerned about what we hear. That's very important that we take heed towards that, or what we hear, all of those things. We have to make sure, in that, because there's a righteous measure here. With the same measure you use, it shall be used to you. Right? Right? And more shall be added to you who what? Who hear. That's what it said right there. 24. Who hear. Right? And so when you get that, oh man, that'll stir you up all by itself. But you have to take heed. You have to hear right. And I know in my life, especially when I was younger, that my hearing was all over the place, because I didn't have nothing concrete to see, but I heard. I always trusted what I heard. Sometimes the source of what I heard things, it, I don't know why I believed them. I don't. But I did. But I did. You know. And sometimes it's just to slow down to make sure that the information. Oh man, what a day that we in now, right? Oh, you hear so much. And then, like I was saying earlier, you can see something that they say they got video. It's on video. I mean, they can do it, right? So what you see and then what you hear, you know. If somebody out to deceive you, then that's something else. That's a whole different thing. But when it comes to the word, I don't want to be lengthy here, but when it comes to that, it's very, very important that we realize what we are hearing. So what do you hear? And then what do you see? And then to guard your life and what you let in and what you let out, you know. So in your own life is what you let in and then what you let out, you know. So always guard, always, put your fence around in that sense, right? Don't let everything in. Now, when I say that in, I'm talking about into your life, into your heart, into your mind, right? Don't let everything in. And then that everything is sometimes is connected to someone, right? So be choicey about your choice, in that. And those that get close, right, to you. And it's very important in that. Well, of course, my man of shotgun, he's not with me on tonight. Sid is he had to take care of some things that came up, and so I really I like he was here because I bounced things off of him to make sure that the question that he may have may help those that are presently here or may listen to this later, right? In that. So, in that, if there's a comment, and I know we have a little delay or something here, but if there's a comment or maybe even a question, maybe in the chat room here, then I will maybe try to respond to that or just to praise to that in order to get those things going. But I appreciate you and being here. So I will wait just a moment or two to try to see if somebody would have a question or two. Normally I wouldn't do that. I think in the future, we do have the feast days coming up, of course. And so Young Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, the blowing of the trumpets, and I am excited about that. And that run right on into, of course, Yom Kippur as well, so a day of atonements, right? And looking excited to that as well. That's your code. So we got some feast days coming up, and I don't really know what the how I want to do the power ups. I may even do some very short clips, even at your coat and different things like that. So we just have to see. But We have been out of the assembly for a couple of weeks, getting some work done, and we'll get a chance, praise God, to get back and to celebrate the Shabbat as well as our set apart day that the Father has given us in that. So it is good. It is good. All right. As Mark was Yeshua saying, be careful what you hear. Yeah. 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 We always take heed. Yes, sir. Take heed. I see you somewhere there. I didn't know if you was looking at this or not. But yeah, we have to take care, be careful with that. That's the reason that if you hear something, you can get to kind of connect to it before you do that, right? And so it's very, very important. We can connect to it, and even messing with that with the measure, right? With the same measure, it's really I may be kind of squeezing it in here because I wanted to look up something with hearing and seeing, but with the same measure, it is important that that what is that saying is sort of too is what you do unto others, right? You know, just remember that it shall be given to you also, a measure back to you. It's important, right? So we have to know. So when it's good, because it's talking about the soils up there, and if you read through that, you'll find that out according to what the possessions that you have in that, and it'll take you to that, right? And how it sprouts up and all those things, and so it's real good. Appreciate you all in that, and hopefully that your week will continue to be. We got rain today. Well, we probably in certain areas. We here in the Central Texas, we get excited about rain. Now I know what it looks like, guys. It's been a long time, but had a good day today, far as rain was concerned in the area that I am. Someone else probably already experienced the rain, but we needed it. Of course, this is not the first day. I think we had a couple of days where it really really got our hopes up, and then the clouds moved out, or it didn't fall. And it could have fallen in some areas, right? Some areas. So we just honoring and thanking the Father for all that He is doing. So good, so good. The blessing we were talking that other scripture was saying, blessed. Those blessings is something the Father gives us the rain that we need, and we are so grateful for that. So it's a good thing, good thing. All right. Well, to the whole house of Israel, appreciate again everyone that is here. We just appreciate you so very, very much. And again, if you didn't see us, maybe next week or whatever, but just keep your ears to it, and we will. It may be irregular. We may have something during the time, but each time, I think that if you stay close by, somebody was telling me about a bell or something that you could ring, a notification or something. So if you could do all those things, that may help you. So until our next encounter, may the Father richly bless you in your hearing and in your seeing.